Iran-USA war and the Strait of Hormuz. Is the crisis about to escalate again? The Iran-United States conflict has entered another critical phase. And this time, the biggest battleground may not be on land or in the air. It could be the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important energy routes in the entire world. Today, August 11th, 2026, negotiations surrounding the Strait of Hormuz remain uncertain. Iran has linked the full reopening of the waterway to major concessions from the United States, while President Donald Trump has responded with demands of his own, including compensation from Iran for deaths and damage that he says are connected to decades of conflict. These competing demands are making a diplomatic breakthrough much more difficult. So, why is the Strait of Hormuz so important? The strait is a narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. Every day, huge quantities of oil and other energy products move through this route. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Iraq depend heavily on maritime routes around the Gulf, while major economies in Asia, including India and other Asian markets, depend on energy supplies passing through this region. That means a prolonged disruption in Hormuz doesn't remain a Middle Eastern problem. It quickly becomes a global economic problem. And right now, shipping through the region remains under serious pressure. Recent reports say negotiations involving Oman and Iran over the future of shipping through Hormuz have reached an advanced stage, but a final agreement has not yet been secured. At the same time, Trump has said the strait is effectively open and that the United States has the ability to control the situation, while acknowledging that Iran could still cause problems. This creates an unusual situation. One side is saying the waterway is open, while the other side is attaching conditions to a full return to normal shipping. And that uncertainty is exactly what the oil markets hate. Oil prices climbed more than 2% today, as hopes for a quick U.S.-Iran settlement weakened. Brent crude moved close to the $90 per barrel level, with reports putting it around $89 per barrel during today's trading. Why does that matter? Because oil is not just used to produce gasoline. Oil affects transportation, aviation, manufacturing, electricity generation, shipping, and countless everyday products. When crude prices rise sharply, transportation costs can increase. Businesses may pay more to move goods. Airlines can face higher fuel expenses. And eventually, consumers can feel the pressure through higher prices. But the biggest question is this: could the Iran-US war escalate again? The answer is yes. The risk is still there. But escalation is not inevitable. The reason is that both Washington and Tehran have something to lose from another major escalation. But this strategy carries risks. If economic pressure becomes too intense, Iran could respond by increasing pressure on shipping routes or regional targets. If Iran takes action that Washington considers unacceptable, the United States could respond militarily. And once military action begins, controlling the escalation becomes much harder. That is the central danger. A small incident involving a ship, a missile, a drone, or a military patrol could potentially trigger a much larger confrontation. However, there is still a diplomatic path. Oman remains an important channel between the two sides, and reports indicate that discussions over Hormuz are continuing. If Iran and the United States can reach a temporary agreement guaranteeing safe commercial shipping, it could immediately reduce pressure on oil markets and global trade. But for now, the situation remains uncertain. Trump wants Iran to accept American demands.
Iran wants the United States to meet Iranian conditions, and the Strait of Hormuz sits directly in the middle of this confrontation. So what should the world watch next? First, watch shipping activity through Hormuz. Second, watch oil prices. Third, watch whether the United States increases or decreases military pressure. Fourth, watch Iran's response to Trump's new compensation demands. And finally, watch the diplomatic efforts involving Oman and other regional governments, because the next few days could be extremely important. If negotiations succeed, the strait could gradually return to normal, oil prices could ease, and the risk of a wider regional conflict could decrease. But if negotiations collapse, shipping disruption continues, and either side chooses military escalation, the consequences could spread far beyond Iran and the United States. For Pakistan, India, the Gulf countries, Europe, and Asia, this is not simply another distant war. It is a crisis that could affect fuel prices, inflation, shipping, trade, and the global economy. The Strait of Hormuz is only a narrow stretch of water, but what happens there could have consequences for millions of people around the world. And right now, the biggest question is not simply whether the war will continue. The real question is, will diplomacy finally reopen the world's energy highway, or will the next escalation make the crisis even bigger? We are watching the situation closely, and the answer could shape global markets and Middle Eastern politics for months to come.